हेडफोन लगा हुआ।
My voice will be loud enough.
नहीं वो उस पे आएगा नहीं, फेसबुक पे नहीं आएगा।
Please bring the headphone.
Your ideal position will be here. People watching at home can't read this because I'm seeing it. If you exchange the seats, it's good for me to sit here. There are a lot of people watching him from homes. Exchange करें तो अच्छा है, view आ गया.
Not very much.
Isn't there too much echo?
Yeah. Move it out of the way.
Keep it a little bit far. Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
थोड़ी ज़्यादा ही कहाँ है आखिर?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay, that's fine. You're good.
Shall we start or are we waiting for Harun?
We should start.
Well, thank you for letting me sit on this side of the fence. Normally I'm on that side and that's more enjoyable.
I think please go ahead.
The record shows that I asked them if we should wait for you.
No, Ansha, please start.
Okay. This book or these books have been a personal journey for me. My first book was a perspective on the signs of Al-Quran through the prism of the heart. This book that we are discussing today is really a sequel. I guess all books on spirituality are sequels. This is a sequel to the second one, up to the first one, and it is meeting of the two C's where the heart leads the mind. Through the prism of the heart and where the heart leads the mind, that should be a giveaway of what these books are about. I see a difference between religion and spirituality, and a difference between the literal and the mystical, and a difference between a reductionist approach to the Quran versus a spiritual approach to the Quran. And what do I mean for that? For example, a literalist, and I'm not putting a literalist down, but a literalist will obsess over what are these two C's? Where on the map are they? Where in the Middle East are they? A spiritualist say, where do I belong? Spiritualist will say, where do I belong here? Where are these two C's about me? He goes for a deeper meaning. Or he would be happier to locate the meeting of the two C's on a mystical map, where it has mystical coordinates, and you will kind of get a flavor of that. My first book ended up being mostly about Asmaul Husna. Because after all, the Quran is really the speech of God. It is God talking to you. And if you're not drawn to the author, then you're really not drawn into the Quran. And the thing that truly opened the floodgates for me is when I discovered that ayah can mean a verse and ayah can mean a sign. The sign can be a mountain, the sign can be the moon, the sign can be within myself. And that really opened the floodgates of spirituality for me. And that is why I had the subtitle of this book, Where the Heart Leads the Mind. Because when you start looking as everything around you as a sign, as a pointer to the one, then the heart is fully engaged in the reality of one's existence. And by the way, when I say reality, I will make a distinction between reality with a small r and reality with a capital R. When I mean a capital R, reality in caps, I'm going to do this. And when I say reality, like we are sitting here, it is real, but it is not this reality. So we make that distinction. So someone asked me 2-3 days ago, what is the heart? I just want to make sure that we don't confuse it with the physical heart. Okay? In my introduction in the first book, I had said in the introduction, God is both personal and universal. The personal God is an intimate God, with no two intimate relationships being alike. The same God is universal too, so that all human beings are equal and equally special. The heart is that place within us which is both intrinsically personal and universal, our inner core with the capacity to hold the universe, the sanctum with infinite doors. It is that organ of faith that expands with inclusion. It grows when it is tolerant and is richer by giving. God's speech in Arabic is aimed at the heart. And by the way, when I do this, it's not my physical organ, it is my core. And because it is so important, in the epilogue of the same book, which is really about recalling the 99 Asmaul Husna, I state again, we the earthly creatures of clay are much too mired in our bodily cravings to deem credible anything that defies sensory corroboration. Our ego and its client mind are the doubting duo of the soul. We must therefore listen to the voice through the organ of faith we call the spiritual heart. The heart is the sanctum sanctorum of the bestower of faith, Al-Mumin. The cosmic center within us, this cosmic center within us, is our timeless point of connection with the voice that beckons us to the divine pathways. We must honor this place and offer it to the protector of sacredness and the remover of doubt, Al-Muhaymin. I should have done this. I start both my books with the Durood. So, before I get into meeting of the two C's, let me read from the template which is common to both books. I say first and foremost, all prophets as God's chosen are foremost amongst God's creatures in rank and proximity to God. To know and respect the proper place and rank of anything and everything is part of spiritual conscientiousness. Praise belongs only to God, and blessings belong to those who have earned proximity to divine glory and majesty. These, the purest of human spirits, are the truly successful, bestowed and blessed with divine peace. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wassalamun alal mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. The veneration of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for being the bearer of the Quran has special significance to Muslims. Blessed is he for bearing it, living it, reciting it, and passing it on. May we find joy and gratitude in God's invitation to join the chorus of truth. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. By offering our heartfelt respect and sincere greetings to God's Prophet, we implore God to unlock doors to our inner peace and guidance. May this invocation be construed as obedience to a path and not a sign of distinction between prophets when God and His Prophet have declared that there is none. My experience with the Quran suggests to me that the one who studies the Quran is necessarily studying himself. Without my knowing it, I was being led to look inside of me. The believer and the non-believer, the sincere and the hypocrite, Moses and Pharaoh, good and evil, they all lived within me. Any warning in the Quran, if it was for another, it was for me. I realized how well the voice in the Quran knew me, better than I knew myself. Denial stood no chance. I understood what the Indian mystic Kabir meant when he said, I set out to look for evil in another, I found none. I set my sight inwards, and I found no other worse than me. I am aware that I have only just begun. The road is long, with no end in sight, but the sheer joy of the journey offers the distance as a blessing. I pray that this journey be earnest until surrender becomes the sweetness of peace. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. I should make another note. The Quran has taught me that the word Muslim with lowercase m and Islam with lowercase m are not proper nouns, although the grammar checker will disagree. Islam is a word that simply means submission, and a Muslim with a lowercase m is one who submits. Yes, because the Quran categorically reminds us that judgment of submission to is God's affair and not man's. A Muslim with a capital M must await judgment before he becomes a Muslim with a small m. My name is Saeed with a capital S. It means cheerfulness. But the day I become cheerful, please write my name in lowercase. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Until then, we Muslims must remember that we may be perceived by others as ambassadors of the Quran. We must also remember that our poor ambassadorship may disinvite others to the Quran when it is offered by our one God as the key to all seekers' inner doors. I'm going to skip some here. Spirituality is our inner dimension, one that gets suppressed and obscured by our passionate pursuit of worldly gains. The Quran restores this dimension and its voice within us, the voice of the heart, the dimension of our inner intellect. By the way, in the Middle Ages, intellect belonged to the heart. This is only a recent phenomenon that we talk about intellect belonging here. We carry between us the seas of two intellects, the native intellect of the heart and the learned intellect of the mind. Both are needed to be whole. The Quran speaks to and engages both intellects, tadabbur and tafakkur. Let me explain what I mean with an example of a beautiful verse in which Noah, Hazrat Nuh, instructs his fold. وَقَالَ أَرْكَبُوا فِيهَا بِسْمِ اللَّهِ مَجْرَيْهَا وَمُرْسَاهَا إِنَّ رَبِّي لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. So he, Noah, said unto his fold, embark on the ship. In the name of God be its course and its anchor. Behold, my sustainer is indeed forgiving, most merciful. There isn't much factual detail in this verse about the journey of Noah, and perhaps that is not the purpose. It does, however, remind the heart of its own journey through the tumultuous currents of life. Adrift, it too seeks a plank to remain afloat and find anchor. An awoken heart would find the tenor of the verse to be spiritually effective and intimately reassuring. The prayer of Noah is our prayer too, and we need not be on a boat or a plane to invoke it. وَقُلْ رَبِّي أَنزِلْنِي مَنْزِلًا مُبَارَكًا وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. O my sustainer, deliver me to a blessed destination. You are the best to assign destinations. The heart seeks faith and the mind seeks authenticity. The Quran offers both on its mystical terms. It invites us through discovery towards a new way of thinking and being. The Quran has commands, edicts, warnings, and hope, but above all, it has a spirit. The spirit of the Quran is God Himself, revealed through His attributes. One comes to the Quran seeking God, and it is God who offers guidance. That to me is the ijaz of the Quran, that you are seeking guidance and the author is the one that will guide you. The quest for God demands sincerity, earnestness, discipline and humility, both moral and physical. After all, what light could come into the mind that is close to the heart? What good could come to a seeker without the thirst? What gems could one unearth without digging deep? What new doors could open to a man sprawled in the intoxication of intellectual arrogance? God demands of Moses, when he calls him in the valley of Tuwa, that Moses should remove his sandals and with them the muddy legacy of his worldly journey. When a prophet must remove his shoes, what layers of dust and rust, grime and dirt, dogma and falsehood must we scrub and peel before we are to approach his speech in the Quran? This book is an attempt to share a continuing personal journey. Putting the finishing touches to my first book, A Perspective on the Science of Al-Quran through the prism of the heart, I was moved to write, man outside of faith is like Noah's son, outside of the ark, lost in the turbulence of his own ego and the falsity of his self-sufficiency. God wants the returning soul to return to his presence in the abode of peace, Dar es Salaam. The ark is the Quran. Likewise, Pharaoh and Moses are not merely historical figures. They represent the active opposing forces within our souls. The soul, unanchored in the troubled and turbid tide that is civilization, like Noah, needs faith and perseverance to reach the highlands of safety. Man cannot live outside of or away from God, because God is truth. فَذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الدَّلَالُ فَأَنَّى تُصْرَفُونَ. My teacher taught me Anna is two things, how and where. So how and where are you going to turn away from the truth? It is not possible to adapt or summarize the Quran for the simple reason that its message grows on you. Any interpretation is merely a snapshot in time and a reflection of the interpreter's evolving experience and spiritual intellect. My perspective is therefore merely one transitory perspective on the infinite. To unshackle us from worldly bondage and to tether us to the divine, the Quran breaks us to remake us, empties us to fill us, humbles us to elevate us, and humanizes us to immortalize us. The Quran, I'm going to skip some more. A mystical journey is on offer on eternally unchanged terms. This journey is to be experienced, not analyzed. Its purpose is to awaken the heart to the intimate bond that exists primordially between each soul and its creator. In love, there are no words or sounds worth heeding than those of the beloved. The Quran is much more than its manuscript. The formless Quran carries the scent of the beloved. I would like to think that I understand what Rumi means when he challenges us with some impatience. Will you just admire the jug, or will you not drink the water? I'm always amazed as to how Rumi in one verse captures what takes me 1,000 words to say. He's basically saying, stop admiring the Quran, dive deep into it. Now, before I won't be getting into Surah Kahf today, obviously not, but I will read the prelude to it and kind of the epilogue at the end of it. But I thought it was important that in the discussion of Surah Kahf, I would discuss a few definitions so that at the risk of losing the reader, but if I retain the reader, then it was important for him to to understand what I meant by these terms, because Surah Kahf deals with the fracture of time, and our entire reality is based on time. You take away time, and we don't exist. We can't communicate, and I'll come to that definition. Okay? So I say it would be proper, I thought, to first define a few terms that are often affected by their context. We need not define them one way in science and another way in religion. Normally this belongs to the glossary at the end, but I thought I should be sensitive and fair to your time and interest, even at the rather dreadful risk of losing you here. Language. What is language? Howsoever inadequate it may seem sometimes, it is the best way we have to convey our thoughts. Time. A medium in which man, God's deputy on earth, may experience the creativity of God and exercise his own creative will. The if and then of our logic and analytical observation exist only in time. Take away time, you can't think. Cause and effect, the mechanism of observation and experience, can only operate within the flow of time. The flow of time is the ground of our empirical reality, small r. Without the flow of time, there would be no motion. Without motion, there would be no forms. Without forms, there would be no cosmos. Without time, we can have no sensory experience, except which has become part of our consciousness. Facts are time-based. We can agree on facts because of our shared time flow. The uniformity of facts is dependent on the uniformity of time. That's what Surah Kahf shows. There were two facts, one on this side of the cave, one on that side of the cave, because time wasn't uniform. As we will see later in this book, in the story of the young man in the cave, facts break down when the uniformity of time is fractured. How do I define real in all caps? That which does not change with time and would therefore eliminate all forms and phenomena. Anything that changes in time is real only with small r. That which does not change in time is all caps. That would eliminate all forms and all phenomena. It is the essence we call God, known completely to God alone. Truth. That which after knowledge of the observable and the hidden is compiled, reconciles all thoughts, answers all questions, and erases all doubts. It cannot be proven until we have all the knowledge. It cannot be disproven, no matter how much knowledge we possess. It will and it must stand the test of scrutiny and doubt. The spiritual truth is a truth that is unassailable. You cannot prove it, but you cannot assail it. Light. That which makes us see things which we would otherwise not be able to see. In a spiritual sense, it is that insight which offers us a view into our own inner selves and engenders a new perspective to contemplate a hidden hand in the design and sustenance of all existence. It is the light of which Rumi says, "The light is in your heart. You will find a way home." And the Quran says, "Alastu bi rabbikum." It is native to us. God is native to us. I've already covered this. Muslim with an uppercase S, uppercase M. Anyone who professes belief in one God. Muslim with a lowercase m. Anyone who surrenders to God. All prophets are there for Muslims. Prophets Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are amongst the best of Muslims with lowercase m. No man can profess to be a Muslim with lowercase m. This is a determination and declaration for God to make. Paradise. The becoming of the divine word peace, salam, qalum Rabbil Rahim, a state of divine peace with no loss, no want, abiding fulfillment and perfect harmony, because it is a state or a station which no eye beheld, which no eye has ever beheld, no ear has ever heard, and no heart of man has ever conceived. We are given the parable of gardens with subservient rivers. Could it be the unimaginable joy of realizing the omnipresent face of God? Could it be the unfathomable peace that comes from resting in the truth? Jahannam, a parable for unimaginably fiery agony, anguish, and regret, facing a consciousness that is still ill-prepared for the reality. Let us, as a way of understanding, call it the repose of a soul that, having risen blind and unawakened, agonizes being outside of the truth. By the way, I'm not making up my own definitions here. I've cleaned this from the Quran, and those of you who are familiar with it will attach a verse to it. Seeker, someone who is intellectually honest, humble, and hungry, and does not live by bread alone. The seeker has gotten a scent of the other realm that hides behind the realm of forms and phenomena. He is willing to consider that it is not the body or the world that bears consciousness. This is the most important line to me. He is willing to consider that it is not the body or the world that bears consciousness, but it is consciousness that bears the body and the world. Now, there's a lot of sophistry there, but Einstein said the universe exists because we can think it. I mean, have you gone and touched the moon they've landed on? Have you touched the stars? No. It is there because you can think it. Your reality is there because your intellect can create it. Your consciousness can create it. And in fact, the Quran points examples where it says that sleep is like a death, and when you wake up, it's like a small resurrection. What word does it use? That sleep is that when you wake up, sleep is a smaller death, and when you wake up, it's a smaller resurrection. But you walk without your legs, you talk without your vocal cords, you smell without your nose. Your body is present to your consciousness. The heart referred to in spiritual discourses is the name given to our spiritual core, the seat of faith. The spiritual heart, like all things spiritual, is an abstraction and not the physical organ of the body. If we must visualize it, let it be the innermost place we can conceive within us. At inner depths, forms dissolve into infinity. I don't care whether you look up in the sky or you peer through a microscope. At those inner depths, forms dissolve into infinity. Just like a deep view into the atomic microcosm reflects the macrocosm of the universe. How are we doing for time? 10 more minutes?
You have 20 more minutes.
Intellect of the heart. Our mind, my purpose in this reading is not to prove anything, but to hopefully give you food for thought. In the end, you have to reconcile in your own way how and where you fit in the scheme of things that God created. And like I said, that everyone has a personal relationship with God, with Allah, and no two intimate relationships are the same. Our mind crafts our physical reality with the self being the source of all sensory input. This picture of reality places the self firmly at its center. The spiritual heart senses this picture to be a small piece of a larger picture, which is sensorially hidden from the mind. The spiritual heart has a native sense of the hidden dimension, and this intellect is the filter through which it views the physical world and our worldly life and the purpose behind them both. The spiritual cause, the timeless will of God which assigns each created thing its native property, fitra, and capacity, qadar. All other causes, forces, and effects are within the ambit of the spiritual cause. The point I'm trying to make is, yes, you can identify physical causes. The earth came because of this Big Bang. You can have a series of causes. The dust came together and stars formed and land masses formed and whatnot. But what came before the Big Bang? That was the spiritual cause. So for every cause, underlying that cause is a spiritual cause, which is the fitra. Now, one thing that I did is in my book, I know books can be boring, so after every chapter, I've got a picture and a caption because remember, to me, whether it is the verse of the Quran or a sign in nature, they're all pointers to God. So I thought that when this becomes too intense, we kind of take a break and look at one of these pictures. This is a picture of a caterpillar emerging as a butterfly. From egg to caterpillar to pupa, did I say it right? To butterfly, back to egg again. The transformational journey of life. Time is measured as a count of repetitions. We have measured it by the emptying of an hourglass, and now we measure it by 1 of 9 billion oscillations of an cesium-133 atom every second. But time is not just a count, it is also a stage of metamorphosis. The physical change, often creeping, sometimes dazzling, that time ushers upon or around us, occurs within nature's closed womb, Rahma. Transmutability speaks to a common origin. Its extreme expression, the transmutation of the material into the non-material, stated scientifically with the simple and elegant equation E equals mc squared, attests to forms, matter, and energy being merely different aspects of the same underlying reality, capital R. What man adds to the primordial reality is his own free will. See the other picture. Free will awareness of the manifestor and his majesty. The self-willed metamorphosis in humans. Reading the Quran is about metamorphosis, is the change in the soul's consciousness through steadfast seeking and grateful living. Okay, now what I want to do is take you to the doors, to the threshold of Surah Kahf. Okay? I'll stop at the first verse. I say essence is other than forms or phenomena. The Prince of Mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm quoting Rumi, said truly that no one has passed away from this world, no one who has passed away from this world feels sorrow and regret for having died. Nay, but he feels 100 regrets for having missed the opportunity, saying to himself, why did I not make death my object? By death he means the death of the soul or passage to Ghaib.
What page did you jump to?
Page 57. Good student, thank you. Death, which is the storehouse of all fortunes and riches. You know, we know scientifically that 95% of the matter or energy is dark matter or dark energy. I mean, we live in a minuscule of even what science understands that there is out there. So death, which is the storehouse of all fortunes and riches. And why, through seeing double, did I fasten my lifelong gaze upon the phantoms that vanished at the fated hour? The face of God. This is my text now. Physical reality, for all its objectivity, is forged inside the brain. The eye passes an inverted image to the brain, which in turn inverts it back to keep the sky above our heads and the ground beneath our feet. A mirror reflects back a laterally inverted image of what is in front of it, hiding what is behind it. However, the image engages us. However, when the image engages us, we disengage from the inversion or what was hidden behind the mirror. Even more enigmatically, when the brain is cut off long enough from all sensory inputs, it will construct its own external physical world within its sealed quarters. They have shown this, that if you put someone in solitary confinement for 18 days, the mind starts to create its own images. Worldly reality is not so perfectly physical, and for this reality to be real and our mastery over it to be sustainably authentic, the spiritual reality must necessarily be real. The sensorial version of reality has no need for another dimension of space, another realm of time, or a sixth sense. Extending our analogy of the reflection in a mirror, spiritual reflection is the art of looking through a mirror instead of looking into it. In that sense, it is looking with the inner eye. Rumi says of the gift of a spiritual mirror. I mean, look at what he's going to say. I brought you a mirror. Look at yourself and remember me. The me is God. Spiritual awareness is a trait that characterizes a mystic. Spiritual awareness, a trait which characterizes a mystic, is his acute sensitization to the not so obvious which hides behind the obvious. When two waters join seamlessly, the spiritually aware contemplates the invisible barrier that exists between the two. And when he sees the external, he becomes aware of the internal. Therefore, in spiritual awareness, two states exist so that one may point to the other. The earth points to the heavens, and the earthly points to the spiritual. The spiritually aware seeks the hand, al-musabbir, behind the dazzling forms, the irresistible will of al-qahar, behind the rise and fall, and the oneness behind the exponential multiplicity, al-wahid. A mystic considers pain to be a learning opportunity. happiness to be a test, material prosperity to be a trial. To him, anything that is not everlasting is not the essence and is therefore not real. He is seeking at all times no less than the face of God, Zul Jalali wal Ikram, manifested by the ceaselessly wondrous creativity around him and within him. Kullu man alayha fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika zul jalali wal ikram. All whatsoever that exists is temporal, forever and transcendental is thy sustainer's face, full of majesty and glory. The face of God is not of the realm of forms, but of the realm of realization. The realization of God is through the contemplation of his attributes on both the horizontal and vertical planes. The process of this realization is called zikr. The truth which a seeker seeks to embrace emanates from and reconciles in his attributes. These divine attributes point the soul to a reality which is qualitatively and quantitatively different from our own, making our journey an unending quest for alignment. Some attributes of God point to his transcendence and serve as reminders of the reality of the Spirit. The most beautiful and telling one being that there is one, inclusively and exclusively. Some others of his attributes show us pathways which we must walk, here and now, on our own horizontal plane. God is love, mercy, compassion, and forgiveness. How else can we understand love without another human being to love? Or better yet, without having another human being who hates us? How can we seek mercy without learning to be merciful and compassionate, and therefore without finding other people less fortunate than us? How can we deserve forgiveness without learning to forgive others, and therefore without having to forgive anyone who has wronged us? How can one be generous without having anyone who needs help? The attributes of God, by his declaration, are attributes of transcendental beauty. When one seeks divine beauty for its essence, for love and devotion, it ignites, engenders, and sustains. All religious edicts, instead of becoming chores, fall effortlessly into our way of being. Rumi says, this one refrained from even the lawful, so he will not commit the forbidden. He even sacrificed from his property, so how can he steal from his fellow believers, his fellow companions? To the mystic, the understanding that a day turns into night because the earth rotates on its axis is not enough. To him or her, the concept, coincident with the will, defines the mechanism. Thus, it was conceived that there be a day and a night, and therefore the earth was made to spin. You understand the spiritual cause? Ar-Rahman conceived that he gives us the day and the night, and therefore he made the earth to spin. So that is and we understand all the other causes, the physical causes. So that there may be seasons, the earth was made to tilt on its axis, and the orbit of its revolution around the sun was made elliptical. The will of God is the spiritual cause behind all manifestation. The mystic sobs, contemplating the will of the inventor, Al-Badi. He owes his tears and his joy to God. That's from the Quran. When the mystic sees a leaf falling or blown away by tempestuous winds, he is moved by the leaf's reverence and obedience to the divine will. And in the songs of birds, he hears the praise of God. That is from the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ, who saw best the timeless spiritual cause behind the physical cause, or the timeless divine will behind the chronology of time, has said, I was a prophet when Adam was clay. Take this to heart. It's not for the mind, it's for the heart. I was a prophet when Adam was clay. No, the preceding verse does not suggest that the prophet was born before Adam. It simply challenges us to contemplate a timeless spiritual cause behind all that we see and experience in time. A child follows its parents chronologically. Spiritually, it may be construed that a child is willed and consequently the parents come into being. Jesus was to come, and thus came Mary, and thus came the mother of Mary. We tend to correlate in time, but correlation is actually timeless. Every event is correlatable to the unchanging attributes of the divine. Furthermore, the physical properties and principles that pair cause to result and action to reaction are themselves attributes to the assigner, Al-Fatih. The ships plow the sea laden with heavy cargo because the property of water and the principle of displacement allow the ships to remain afloat. The ship, or the principle by which it floats, neither of them are human inventions. They are human discoveries. The yielding of the sea to a laden ship, man's ingenuity duly acknowledged, is an attribute of divine affection, ar-Rauf. The boundlessness of the galaxy, so that the stars may remain transfixed even as they are in motion and guide us on our journeys, is attributable to the boundless, Al-Wasi. The earth spins ceaselessly like a whirling dervish, so that you and I can find wakefulness of day and restfulness of night. The sun tugs at the earth relentlessly across cold and open space, so that we may sow and harvest. Contrasts are manifested by the same propulsion. The seeker finds the experience of life with all its contrasts to be an unremitting debt to the transcendent will. Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahar li ayati li ulil albab. Seekers of the essence. Rational logic explains away effect to the cause. This, of course, is of import when we need to reproduce something in the laboratory. But what about things that are not repeatable in the laboratory? Or an experiment whose ambient conditions can never be reproduced? Life and consciousness are those unrepeatable experiments, because the essential contexts of time and space are not recallable. In this earthly realm of ours, faith accepts the effect as the becoming of the merciful will, and the cause as the necessary compliance to the will. Spiritual logic is simply a different logic. Nevertheless, it is as logical as rational logic. A mystic breaks the straitjacket of logic frozen in one dimension. A mystic breaks the straitjacket of logic frozen in a one-dimensional cause and effect. Now look at how Rumi sums it up. Externally, the branch is the origin of the fruit. Intrinsically, the branch came into existence for the sake of the fruit. Had there been no hope of fruit, would the gardener have ever planted the tree? Allahu Akbar. Did you get it? I'll say it again. Externally, the branch is the origin of the fruit. Intrinsically, the branch came into existence for the sake of the fruit. Had there been no hope of fruit, would the gardener have planted the tree? To Rumi, the plain edicts of the Quran, its religious law, is like a candle that shows the way. Unless one gains possession of the candle, there can be no wayfaring. And when one has come to the way, one's wayfaring is on the path revealed by the interior sense of the Quran. The truth being sought, within which all things and all phenomena, whether they be observable or hidden, must reconcile, is reached at the journey's end. I'm just about entering Surah Kahf. Knowledge, because it has no limits, is always a quest. So with every new bit of its acquisition, it reveals teasing tips of new icebergs. For all that we know today, we know very little. And with every small bit of discovery, the mystery only deepens. Today, scientists are grappling with dark matter that we cannot see or sense, though it constitutes the bulk of the mass of the cosmos. The observable matter, stars, planets, stardust, etc., is estimated to be less than 5% of the total mass of the universe. We do not conquer knowledge, we simply venture into its infinite domain. Knowledge surrounds us, inspires us, then awes us into humble seekers. Only the blind of both mind and heart can stay unaffected by the inevitable realization that the magnitude of the cosmos is unfathomable and the secrets largely unattainable. We will forever be faced with the indeterminacy of the cosmos, both in its ever-growing immensity in magnitude and its unending minutiae of intricacy. Locked as we are in our experience of 3 dimensions in space and a single dimension of time, the truth can only humble us. It is unarguably true also that we did not create ourselves, and neither were we created by anything that we created. Clearly, whatever was devised by man could not have created man. Even the idol-worship non-believers of Mecca conceded that. What they were cynical of was the tiding which is both profoundly joyous and consequential. The Creator is He unto whom we are to return. Our true journey, being homeward bound, is not He who offers us transcendence, the true owner of praise. Alhamdulillah allazi anzala ala abdihi al-kitaba wa lam yaj'al lahu iwaja. Time for another picture.
I like pictures.
I know. I love this picture. The supermass embedded in the fabric of space-time, warped space-time as any object would when placed upon a fabric. Time close to the warp moves closer than time away from it, than time away from the warp. Though to an observer without another reference than his own, this would apparently, I'm going to bypass all of that. Actually, what I was trying to show here was, no, this will go off on a tangent. Time does not exist independently of space. Change one, so must the other. What is passed to us in one point of space-time continuum exists as a now in another point in an infinitely vast universe. consciousness in time is never lost. Man's empirical knowledge flows from discovery. Mathematics and physics and all other sciences are discoveries and not inventions. This is an important point. Man discovers, man does not invent. We are entitled to file our patents, but we have basically leveraged the properties of nature. The universal constants of gravity, the speed of light, pi, E equals mc squared, all these are discoveries. They've always been there, waiting for the right discoverers, the young people in this room. God's knowledge is integral to his attributes, acquisition being completely unnecessary. He is God, the creator, the inventor, the shaper. To him belong the most beautiful attributes. Whatever is in the heavens and on earth devotes itself to him. He's the Almighty, the All-Wise. You know, I know that I've gone past my time. I had another section. I'm not going to cover that. I'd rather I take questions and finish these slides. Okay? But let me take a sip of water first.
I think we can open it up to questions now, so please.
So let me just go through.
Okay.
There's 3 more slides. You've all seen this. What I do is at the end of every chapter, I give the reader a break because this stuff can
Ponder.
and a pathway to ponder. A university student shows fragments of an old Musaf of the Quran in the University of Birmingham, England. Radiocarbon analysis, considered to be 95% accurate, dates the parchment on which this text is written to be 568 and 645 CE, overlapping with the time the Prophet was physically present. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The beginning verses. These are the beginning verses of Surah Taha, by the way. The Arabic Quran is the seeker's authentic and direct spiritual connection with God and his blessed messenger. It is now a direct disclosure to us. This is the beauty of the Quran, that it is a disclosure on us. The Quran actually says, Anzalna alaykum, in certain places. Okay? His other disclosures through the manifested cosmos and our own awakened inner selves. The immaculate preservation of the Arabic Quran is through meticulous I'm going to skip this because I know we're running out of time.
Don't worry about time, Saeed Bhai. You're enjoying it.
What is important here is this is showing how time is slowing down over here. Okay? But it will not be obvious to a person standing here. But again, this is for another day. But that is about Surah Kahf.
Where's the Arabic? Where's the Arabic?
Well, this I got from the Kindle. The Kindle does not take the Arabic. Okay, so I have to remove it. Earth, which is 800, this picture was taken by one of the spacecrafts. This is the Earth. Can you see my mouse? Yeah. Earth, which is 898 million miles away in this image, appears as a blue dot at the center right. The moon off to the Earth's right side is not discernible in this printed image. How significant are our forms? How large are our empires? Look again. How large are our nation states? What is on earth that we will leave behind? Are we any less than true neighbors unto one another? We need not be on Saturn, by the way, that's close to Saturn, to get another perspective. We are hosted in an all-encompassing and transcendental being, Al-Wajid, through the divine wujud in an unfathomable essence. It discloses itself to us through the cosmos, through revelation, and through our own contemplative capacity. Our reality, lowercase r, is a sensation we are allowed to share and sustain so that we may seek and contemplate the real, uppercase R. The being is not for man to analyze or construe, but the overwhelming truth to contemplate, realize, and heed. Nay, I take an oath, Lao Semu, bin Mawaki.
نجوم
Nay, I take an oath upon
مواقع النجوم.
by the places and stages of the stars, and lo, that verily is a tremendous oath if you but knew, because the stars are not even physically there. No, it is truly a noble discourse. You all know what this is. An eclipse must have been a terrifying experience until we understood it for what it is. Today we feel fortunate to experience an eclipse for its rarity and its exoticness of the moment. More than defining where the heavenly bodies are, an eclipse defines where we stand. Anxiety, fear, grief, and impatience are symptomatic of not knowing. Our fear of death springs from our fear of losing the known to the unknown. To know God is to celebrate oneness, the knowing that melts away the fear of the unknown. This is an interesting one. This was taken by the International Space Station. 16 sunrises in space for every sunrise on Earth are empirical facts. I guess you guys know what I'm talking about. All observations are relative to the observer. From our vantage point, transcendental facts cannot be stated empirically. The date Saturday, August 27, 2011 has all the relevance to NASA's mission, but it has no relevance whatsoever with the sunrise. Okay, this was the book. Do not be looking for a specific place where the two seas meet, or where Moses met Khidr. The universe has infinite meeting points. We ourselves are at the nexus of the empirical and non-empirical realms. Our consciousness is their meeting place. I think we'll leave it here, because what I've already taken about 45 minutes or more. Oh, thank you for bearing with me. Let's enjoy our breakfast, and I'll sit here and take questions.
Can you see that, I mean, the meeting of the two seas, or in other words, the two seas is everything we have in mind, the positive, the negative, the being here, and the consciousness of being here, the reality and the non-reality.
Absolutely, all of those. That's what I tried to convey in the book. That is why I said at the outset, I made a note. I said, there is an approach, a literalist approach to the Quran and a mystical approach to the Quran. There's a reductionist approach to the Quran and a spiritual approach to the Quran. Some people will say, I want to see where Hazrat Musa met Khidr, and they will start looking at the globe. Some people who take the spiritual approach, they say there is a meeting point in an infinite number of things.
I think the literalist approach is important to understand the spirituality also. So both go together actually.
I had said at the outset that one does not displace the other. Both have their place. Yeah.
We are in a literalist world, so that is important.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about celebrate the oneness, I'm sorry, go ahead. Everybody had a question.
Age before good looks.
Oh, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah. How do you celebrate the oneness? As you mentioned earlier, to know the oneness, you need to celebrate the oneness.
Celebrating oneness, that's a beautiful question, by the way. Okay. There's this, what we call the vertical plane. Their oneness is nothing but Allah. Then there is this horizontal plane where we interact with each other, where we live. Okay? There it is the multiplicity of the Creator. Here we are interacting with what He created. So on the horizontal plane, to value His creation, to value each other, to have a sense of the environment, is to celebrate His oneness. There on a vertical plane, you pray to Him as if the horizontal plane never existed. That is to celebrate His oneness. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to comment and say, I like this end of what you showed there. You don't necessarily have to be seeking for this mega, like seeds. Everybody has their own little seed. For example, me, my seed could be, my two seeds could be my home and my masjid, right? And my gathering in the morning when I, sit and chat with you guys. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we shouldn't be getting too carried away trying to find that elevated something. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has their own little own little meeting of the mind and the heart in their own little way.
Absolutely. I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah. You don't have to necessarily, understand the whole universe and this and that. In my own day-to-day life, I am interacting with my two C's. I am trying to bring my two C's. I'm trying to find that special spot where the two C's meet.
I don't think any of us, our knowledge is so minuscule. It is our fascination with knowledge. It is our getting liberated and thinking outside the box is what this is all about. We will only attain a microscopic aspect of knowledge. So the whole idea is to I think Rumi calls it to be bewildered. That spiritual growth is to be bewildered, and it will be your own way. No two ways are the same. Yes, the Sadhuk Sahib.
Many times you said Allahumma salli ala. What is the complete ayat for this?
I meant Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Thank you for allowing me to say it fully.
Faisal, I just want to little bit dwell on what Brother Faisal said. I think there are different levels of human intellect, right, and heart. So I think we move in different levels. So, and Quran, the beauty of Quran is that it addresses all those levels. So it's not necessarily the mystic only, but as you said, the reality also. And that's another general comment. Iqbal has dwelled on this very explicitly and in very detail. Akal and Dil, which he called Akal, the brain and the intellect versus the heart. So someday maybe we should read those Iqbal's verses also to understand the intellect and the heart.
Sure.
But I think we can all agree that the basis of growth is that there is more to know than I will ever know. Okay. Once you sign on to that, then the debate is over. Khalas.
Where do you define the point of the meeting of the two C's? I mean, how can you see that I have reached this point?
You never will.
That I am at this point of
I have a whole passage, it'll take me time to get to it, but the meeting of the two C's is many nexuses. What's the plural of nexuses? Nexi maybe? Is many nexi, okay? And it's I'm saying the non-empirical and the empirical realms, but I think in the book I've got, in fact, did you guys listen to the radio thing? He lists, I may have. Meeting of two C's is about the journey which Moses undertakes with Khidr. Though this journey is short, it continues to open doors to others through our awakening to the meetings of many sets of two C's around us, the meeting of the manifested real and the hidden real. Manifested real with a small r, hidden real with a capital R. The meeting of the temporal and the eternal. The meeting of the empirical with the spiritual. And the meeting of and the meeting of the physical causes with the spiritual cause. I mean, this covers the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
so
Our consciousness too stands at the nexus of the seas of our very own inner and outer selves. When the heart and the mind come to a meld, the coming together of tadabbur and tafakkur, there is no turning back and no end to the joyous journey toward the shores and sea of the Arabic Quran.
So do you see that it is that the point when you say, like, I am happy, I am satisfied now, or the aha point, oh, I found it? Is it this time where you feel I have arrived at two C's?
You're closer.
ذلك ما كنا نبغي. Is it that satisfaction point inside you that makes you feel I got it,
I would say some people,
or the doubt point that is still looking for the reality, looking for the big R?
I would say that doubt is what propels you for your search, and earnestness is what leads you to God. And in the end, the beautiful thing about the Quran is that Allah is Hadi. He will make the means, okay? He will provide you with whatever you need.
Beautiful.
And the word is beautiful. That is the beauty of our religion. Sometimes he'll send me a Nazir, sometimes he'll send me a Hafiz, sometimes he'll send me...
تصدق.
Sometimes the Tasadduq. Sometimes he'll send me Hassan, sometimes Umar, sometimes someone on YouTube.
Can I say, just briefly, again, sorry, I think what Brother Nazir said is that, the meeting, where it happened, I think it's a journey. To me it's a journey, and it's right there, but we are working towards that, and wherever you are in that journey, you achieve that satisfaction.
Sorry, go ahead.
To me.
Let's, Dr.
Saeed.
What age did you started to change and think spiritual perception of things? What age did you start? Did you start all of a sudden? Or did you start from your childhood?
Can you come again so I don't answer
What
the
leads you, what age or what date that leads you to start thinking this way?
Oh God, that's a
long journey.
Yeah. No, I really did not discover my inner self. I'm not going to claim that I'm there yet. But until after I was 40 years old, and things start I honestly believe that things start happening, and it all started happening with someone giving me one book, and then I wanted another book, or I had a question and another book would appear. I honestly believe that he is the guide. This is not semantics for me. If you are earnest, then he is the guide, and things start falling into place.
For instance, a person like me who has always been on a quest for physical verification and feel for everything, even the cause and effect. After a long time of scientific pursuit, then to shift my orientation to a spiritual understanding.
I will tell you honestly that I still remember the time I was doing the tawaf, and I prayed to God to rid me of the material world that I was in, so I could engage into something different. I still remember that tawaf. I was running a company. When you run a company, I was the CEO. A CEO is an employee to like 700 customers. Every time a customer comes into your office and he says you are messed up, and you say thank you, sir. So the customer is king, and I was sick of it. And and I still remember the tawaf that I made. And the seed takes a while to germinate. Your Jai's dua, he accepts. You just don't know whether it is like that, or a year, or months, or 10 years.
Or maybe whole life.
Or whole life.
So one question that comes to mind. So when you approached Quran, when you started researching and reading Quran, was your mind already of the belief that a divine power exists, or did you discover the divine power after you started researching and reading Quran?
I first read the Quran when I was in my 20s. I picked up Pital, and I don't think that I finished Surah Baqarah. I did not have the temperament. I have a big ego. I wasn't ready. So the guy, if you've got my, I'm not saying that I'm there yet, don't take me wrong, but I'm at least, I spend a good 4 to 5 hours a day still working on the Quran, or still studying the Quran. And I enjoy that. So I'm still learning. And as long as you are sincere in your commitment, you leave the rest gets to him. Sometimes he will send me a scholar in the shape or form of Isa, or sometimes there's Dr. Majid, or sometimes there's Hassan, or sometimes he's got infinite means. And this is the ijaz of the Quran. The ijaz of the Quran is nothing, in my opinion, has got nothing to do with the script, has got nothing to do with all the things that they say. The ijaz of the Quran, its unknowable ability to change you and bring the change to you. Otherwise, where is the miracle? Oh, sorry.
You specifically say Arabic Quran. Why this distinction? When we say Quran by itself,
Oh, that's beautiful.
What was the question?
You have given me a beautiful opening. I hope I can find it. Okay, I don't remember where it was, but this was a quote from Rumi. Okay? Rumi says the Quran existed before there was the Prophet. I wish I can find it. The Quran existed before there was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quran existed before there was Isa. The Quran existed before there was Adam. Except it wasn't in Arabic. You see the distinction? He's saying that God's disclosure was always there. I wish I could find it's somewhere in one of these two books. Quran is God's disclosure, and the sky is God's disclosure. The sea is God's disclosure. In fact, Rumi says they are all the Quran except they are not in Arabic. He calls the sky the Quran, he calls the earth the Quran, he calls your nafs the Quran, but he says it is not in Arabic.
So my question is,
because the point he's making that all pointers point to the same one. Everything is a pointer.
That's Shahrur point.
Okay.
The same thing.
follow up to this, is there any hadith that supports this idea?
Any hadith, I wouldn't know. But I don't see anything objectionable in this.
إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا. So it has been revealed in Arabic. So it was there, but in Arabic.
Quran means recital. And yeah, Quran Arabiya is what makes it the proper noun.
so when you say it was not in, I can comprehend it was stayed in the Lawh-e-Mahfuz and that is for eternity there. But when you say it was not in Arabic, so what do you mean by that?
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Hidayah. The Quran is Hidayah. I'm telling you the concept, right? Hidayah is through divine. In Hidayah, the divine discloses himself. The divine discloses himself through the sky. The divine discloses himself through death. The divine discloses himself explicitly through the Quran. So, remember science, ayah. I said one of the liberating things was the meaning of ayah. The ayah can be the verse of the Quran, or it can be sunrise in the morning. They're both from the same source.
إنا جعلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون. إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون. In both cases, changed it into, because جعل means has been there and has been converted. لعلكم تعقلون, so you can understand it, so you can
Well,
connect it.
also, we believe that the Quran and every revelation is from the source book. It is from God and from the source book. One is in Arabic and the other one is in whatever language it is in.
I think you're referring to page 45 in the Meaning of the Seas. The Torah, the Gospel, and the Quran are from the same source. Indeed, we sent down the Torah in which was the guidance and light. We gave him Jesus, the Gospel, in which was the guidance and light. However, what makes Quran special for the Muslim with a capital M, and for him or her who seeks to be a Muslim with a lowercase m, is his divinity intended, pristine preservation, and enable on-demand accessibility. I think that's what you are.
You should have been here.
Oh,
MashaAllah.
I don't deserve that. I'm still learning. I'm still trying.
But there are many passages about that.
Yeah.
There's an ayah, right, in the Quran that says that if the ocean were ink, right, there wouldn't be enough to exhaust the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that kind of points that the it's not just about the written words, whether they are in Arabic or whether they are in there's something deeper and more infinite about this.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's a very good point. And we talked about that before. It is the kalimat and the kalam. Kalimatullah are the whole existence of the universe. But kalam is the wordings. So Allah saying, لَمَا نَفِذَتْ كَلِمَاتُ So kalimat is whatever He said. The nafis, the ruh, the person, the life, the whole world, the whole universe. That's the kalimat.
This is beautiful, and it comes in two places. One of them I was going to cover, but we didn't have time. قُلْ لَوْ كَانَ الْبَحْرُ مِدَادًا لِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّي لَنَفِدَ الْبَحْرُ قَبْلَ أَن تَنفِدَ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّي وَلَوْ جِئْنَا بِمِثْلِهِ مَدَدًا. The words of God are His creativity. You are Kul, I am Kul. Okay, the Torah was Kul, the Quran is Kul. Every bit of creativity is the word of God. And yes, that answers that question.
You too.
Also, what's interesting about the meeting of the two seas, to me from the Surah Khaf, is when Musa alayhi salam is going and with his companion, right? They realized the fish, right? So it was like a forgetful moment where they realized, hey, we have to go back to the point where the fish went into the ocean. And you know, the thing about the present moment is it's so forgetful, right? Or we get trapped either in the past or thinking about the future. So this way, in that way, it points to a meeting of this two seas of the infinite past and infinite future.
Absolutely.
The present moment.
If I can. So a very a more kind of basic question for me. I hear a lot of reference to spirituality, and I'm really going to ask a very, very basic question. In your life, as you know, your journey, was there a time that, and I'm going to ask him that because so I can relate it to myself and hopefully maybe a few other people can connect to that. Was there a journey where you felt that there was not enough spirituality in your life and that you moved in that direction? And when you got that spirituality, however you define it, how did it change you? And do people go over their lives without that spirituality, and what are they missing? Again, it's a very, very basic question, but I think in very practical ways it impacts a lot of people.
Just, you and I will be sitting here till lunchtime to discuss this one. But look, God has a plan for all of us. And it depends where you are in your life. When I was 21 years old, if you asked me, am I master of my destiny, I would have said, absolutely. I know where I'm going. If you ask me today, did I plan anything? And I really tell you, no, not really. I mean, yeah, there were 3 forks in the road, but I really never had a chance to take the other 2 forks. Okay. So when you look back, you say the only control that I had on myself was really my earnestness and my truthfulness. The rest was someone else. So, as long as we keep challenging, to me the way to arrive at earnestness is keep challenging your assumptions.
Specifically says that I want to talk about spirituality, right? Somebody going through their life, getting up in the morning, going to a job, not being God conscious out or spiritual, I don't know if the terms are interchangeable. The lack of it or the presence of it, how does it change somebody? And that's kind of my own.
All I can tell you is, he is the guide.
Saeed, can I add something?
Yeah.
And different people go through different phases, I guess.
I'm going to mention something which he may not remember, Saeed Saab. I would say about before he started writing his first book, we had a friend, Rashid, who is now a relative of Umar Saab. He is an engineer. He came a part of Tablighi Jamaat in the masjid, small masjid. And I took him to Saeed Saab, his house. And we sat down there and he started chatting to him. And then at one point, Saeed Saab asked, I don't know if you remember that or not. He's a young engineer, very dynamic, but he joined Tablighi Jamaat. So at one point during the conversation, Saeed Saab asked him a question. He said, you are an engineer, you are working professional, but what was the turning point for you in your life? So I felt at that time that Saeed Saab was looking for a turning point. And maybe that was the thought process that he was having, that how can turn the life around, and how did this person turn his life around? So maybe I can benefit from his experience. So that's as I said, he may not remember that conversation, but that's a good question he asked actually.
He was seeking out, that's what the
No.
I want to add something here. That turning point doesn't mean that you found the truth or that you were wrong, now you are right. But that means you have a question about what you are doing. Am I right? Am I wrong? So, to me, the turning point was when I came to USA. When I met the people in the street. When I first came to USA, I saw Islam in the street from a non-Muslims. I didn't see that back in Syria. Although we are all Muslim, people around us. So I said that something wrong here, something that makes me feel that I am not really practicing Islam. I'm just talking about it. And whatever has been built in my mind was just some talk, and that's it. Leave it to God, it will go in. So doesn't mean that if you are like what you think yourself a true Muslim, I don't have to find a true turning point. Every moment in your life is a turning point where you question yourself.
That is,
are you right? Are you wrong?
that is beautiful. Okay, in fact, I say somewhere in the book that to be truly remade, you have to be truly broken first. Broken. Okay.
La ilaha. Then illallah.
Yes, I mean that too. La ilaha is basically shattering every myth. Okay. But the more important point is that there is no growth unless you challenge your own assumptions. And our assumptions are, if you haven't challenged your assumptions, you're basically living with some empty slogans.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay?
when you feel that you are there,
It is only when you realize, my God, this guy, he is a Christian, but you know what? He's a better human being than I am. It is that is when you transform. If you can be that sensitive, where you see a Hindu as a better human being than I am, you say, what happened to me?
Then you become a better person.
It's only when you question your own assumptions, your own, I honestly had to challenge my entire set of assumptions to remake myself. I say somewhere in the book that you have to break yourself before you make yourself again.
I have to say this, Saeed Bhai. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I've been talking too much. You go ahead.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. The way actually I reflect on it is, the whole thing about the meeting of the seas, ocean being there. In my tech world, I look at it. These days this is the world of data analytics, right? And one of the analogy that I usually talk about is, look at the gold mine, where the gold comes from. If you go to the mine, you are digging, and what comes out is dirt. It's all dirt. It's all rocks. You can pile up those rocks, and if someone comes and takes buckets full of those rocks and dirt, no one will stop, even though gold is there, right? So there's a process that kind of refines it, and you use the term, you need to dig deeper to find gems. I think for me that kind of sums it up. You need to dig deeper. Ocean is there, right? It's and then other thing that you just said. I think what you said earlier was that Quran breaks us to make us.
That is the key.
Yes. Humbles us to elevate us.
Yes.
I think to me that kind of summarizes it.
very beautiful.
From the book title, so I see it this way, in a sense that, like when for everybody, that is like meeting up two seas because we're going to the next world, right? Like the next life. So it's meeting up two seas. Am I correct?
You can take it that way.
Yeah, thank you for showing us a new perspective on that spirituality and, thank you.
Yeah, you can. I was going to say something, but I'm having a senior moment right now.
Say it, no problem.
No, he's had the senior now. He's kind of gone.
To me, the two seeds are intellect and the heart, meeting those.
Yeah.
me.
When you look at the story of Hazrat Musa and Khidr, it's not that one is right and the other one is wrong.
Both are different.
It is one who has been given one mission from God, and it is, we are not to be like Khidr, we are to be like Hazrat Musa. We don't have the license to go kill a child because we don't know the unseen. We have to operate in the physical world with our physical observation. So there are, Hazrat Musa is right in his mission, and Khidr is right in his mission. They both have their own missions.
But
I
I
tell-
understand their purpose is and their roles and their limitations.
To me, because you are young, as a young man, what changed my life is one story. And this is the God honest truth. Of all the things that happened to me, this is only one thing that I remember, okay? And I think I tell it in one of these. I'll find it and give it to you. Okay? It's better read here than me telling you.
I have actually a comment or a question, or just since we have very beautiful discussion of personal experiences, so we have two examples in front of us at the time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One is the example of Usman radiallahu anhu. So he was a very wealthy person, a businessman, and spending his wealth for the cause of Muslims, and getting glad tidings from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for his spending. And on the other hand, Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, and he will just make a mission to learn Islam, to learn from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, stay in his company. He will not go for any struggle for his bread and butter. So, but his focus was to learn what Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says and transmit to others or preserve it. And the other one, Hazrat Usman radiallahu anhu. So where we stand in that pursuit in this life. So what is more important, to follow the steps of one companion or the other? So what is especially in nowadays, the struggle for the quest of wealth and everything is, dominant upon all other things actually. So what do you think?
I didn't get the.
You didn't understand the question.
Me too.
I can try to address this question.
He says he wants to be like Usman or
Yeah,
Abu Huraira.
exactly.
Which one?
That's his question.
One was a rich, one was a poor, but missions were different for both.
I would go with Abu Saeed. Khadri.
No, my answer is that each person has its own level and way and means.
I think the challenge in life is, number one, ikhlas. And ikhlas means that you take a sincere undertaking in whatever you're undertaking. The first thing you're going to do is challenge your assumptions. Okay? If you challenging your assumption means that you have to start off. Remember, there would be no scientific progress if you did not challenge our assumptions. So the first thing you do is you say, okay, what I know is probably all wrong. Let me challenge myself. And until you destroy your own myths, until you destroy your own, what do they call it, holy cows.
Ego.
Huh?
The ego.
yeah,
There you
you're not going to move. We all like our inertia. We all like, it is only when you are challenged and you start questioning. The key is questioning. You've got to question until you get your answers. And if your quest is sincere, then the guide is there. There is no two ways about that part. What you bring, and by the way, when I say ikhlas, what you bring is the ikhlas. What he offers is the guidance.
So, Saeed, I have initially, at the very beginning, you started off with this tolerance, right? There was a mention of tolerance. Your heart should be tolerant. Your mind should be tolerant. As I'm aging, I'm realizing that I'm becoming less tolerant of the society, of the things that happen in the society, in the community, with my children, to be very specific, right? So this is a conversation for another day. How tolerant should a Muslim be, whether that is in lowercase m or uppercase m? Is there a limit to tolerance, right? Or should we be tolerant of just about anything, knowing that it is God's will?
I can tell you one thing: the uppercase M Muslim is not tolerant.
It's not, that's for sure.
Okay, he is looking for an opportunity to burn this or burn that.
Right.
Okay. So and we are all striving to shed our uppercase and go to the lowercase, right? So it is a challenge, but there is no growth until you challenge yourself. There is no growth until you challenge your assumptions. Okay, in fact, one of these two places, in one of these two books, I talk of this story where, and I say I can't source it, where there was this plantation where there is this slave master. He's got many slaves that work the fields, and the slave master is a very rich man, but he has to be there every day to drive the slaves hard. So one day he says, man, maybe there's a better way. He had a false glass eye. He takes out his eye. This is not my story. I read it somewhere, I can't source it. He puts it on a rock. He calls all the slaves. He says, I'm going on a very important mission. And if you guys don't work hard, this eye is going to tell me everything. So he takes his eye, puts it on a rock, watching the slaves. The slaves are working very hard. And he comes back in the evening after his drinks and siesta, and he sees the slaves are working hard. He says, great, I found a formula. Next day, he does the same thing. So he comes and he sees the slaves are working hard. One day when he comes, he sees the slaves are sleeping, and he comes to the rock, and someone has played a hat on the eye. Okay. Now, the obvious assumption or conclusion is that these slaves were dumb people. Okay? But the real lesson is that these slaves made an assumption that they were as intelligent as the master. They made an assumption that the eye could see, and then they did the next logical, intelligent thing is to cover the eye with the hat. Okay? So the key is what we assume. right? To me, the biggest challenge in life is challenge your assumptions. That is the process of growth. If you have to challenge that, oh, I'm God's chosen, oh, I'm a Muslim, I'm the one going to heaven, oh, I'm from Pakistan, I'm from the land of pure. If you cannot challenge your assumptions, there is no growth. It is only, and I don't care whether this is science or spirituality, the same applies everywhere. And this is our problem. Our problem is that we are locked into our assumptions. We think we are God's chosen. We think, I mean, you know what I'm saying.
But isn't that lack of knowledge, Brother Saeed, that you have not read the entire message? The entire message doesn't say that, the Quran, for example. The Muslims are supposed to be understanding Quran and acting upon it in reality. So if we don't do that, we are obviously not, our assumptions to start with are not based upon complete knowledge. This is partial, selective knowledge.
Well, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about myself really. I'm not talking about people in general. I'm saying if I don't challenge my assumptions, I'm not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, the message is that try to understand the message in, the complete message. Don't take a partial message and then start running with it.
I want
That's
to
also,
react a
before
little
you
bit
challenge,
to,
you have to
to the comment of Faisal Bhai, Faisal Bhai. So he talked about tolerance and what is the limit of tolerance, and where do you draw the line that it's enough is enough. And I'm actually very bothered by that question also. But my mind just keeps going back to our Prophet's model, where he never raised his voice against anybody who was serving for him or was under his kind of supervision, including his Anas, who related the story that he went off doing. He was told to do something. He went off and then didn't come back. And the Prophet ﷺ, he just smiled, and he saw that he just smiled and came back. How do you take that versus the fact that you have a role to discipline and to convey the message? So how do you do both the things? And and it actually also ties to your talk, your suggestion about breaking down yourself